Hi gamers and developers, and welcome to another GDT vlog. Today's vlog is about Nordic Jam, so this is part 2. Well, you must have watched part 1 just right now, because this is the continuation, but for us, it has been a long time ago. So yeah, we're gonna talk about how the jam went, and the organization, and our thoughts on the jam itself, and not so much on the working on our game. So we have 2 members of each team here. Unfortunately, I think we only have 1 artist because, team 2 artists couldn't come. So yeah, I'm sorry, 3 programmers and 1 artist today. But I think you're still gonna want to see your comments and opinions on the jam because it's kind of important. So yeah. As we mentioned in the part 1 of the video, Nordic Jam is a typical themed game jam. So we went to Copenhagen to work on our game, so we traveled there to work on these jams specifically. And it's quite different from the rest of our jams because we typically work remotely, and this one was presentially. So yeah. This jam was only 2 days, so we started on Friday and ended on Sunday. About the same hours, started on Friday, so 2 days in total. And yeah, I think that's about it. So the theme for this jam was different for everyone. I'm gonna let the teams present their theme. And I'm gonna start with Team 1, which we have 2 members here. So you can say your names, your roles, your game, and your themes.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Paulo. I was one of Team 1's programmers. And
I'm Gonzalo. I was one of the Team 1's artists. And do you want me to tell the teams?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we had 3 themes. The first one was Baku, which is a Japanese mythical creature that kind of protects people, so he can eat dreams. So he eats people's nightmares to keep them safe. The other one was Sex on Beach, the drink. And the other one was a piece of fabric that had like a pattern with hearts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. What was your game called, by the way?
Our game was called Baku.
Yeah, so the game is called Baku.
Yeah.
I think this one is pretty straightforward. So what about Team 2? I'm gonna let João talk because, so please.
Hi, I'm João. I was one of the programmers. Our 3 themes were Bunny, Garlic, and
Games
for nostalgia.
Yeah.
And our game was called Feed the Bunny.
Yeah, so in our case, we had these 3 teams. Of course, we ignored one of them because it was games, and we didn't know what to do with that. So I also worked as a programmer, but
in a way, you could argue that we didn't ignore it.
We made a game. So okay. So now we had a lot of team members. Wasn't only 2 people. You must have seen it in the other video on the other part, but still, I'm gonna tell you their names just in case. So in case of Team 1, besides Paulo as a programmer, they also had Paulina Wajkowska and Eduardo Barrancos. And on Team 2, the other 2 programmers were, the other 1 programmer, was Ricardo Subtil. From the arts team, Team 1 had also Mariana Santos, and Team 2 had Yves Duarte and Nuno Batista. And I think I can still mention the music because we also had people working on music, and from Team 1 was Eduardo Barrancos and Team 2 was Nuno Batista, and they did a great job, both of them. So yeah, I think that's worth noting that they, in one case, was a programmer and music designer, the other one was an artist and music designer, so it was very cool. So now, I'm gonna ask you guys about your game. I think we have already explained in part 1, but still, can you give us a brief
a little recap.
Yeah, a little recap about your game.
Okay, so about our game. Well, our idea started with Baku because it's a Japanese beast that devours dreams, whether they're good or whether they're nightmares. So we decided to play around with that. So you play as Baku, and your goal is to monitor a couple dreams and try to check if things are becoming different than they should.
Yeah.
And if the nightmare is starting to creep in, and try to find all of it before the dream becomes a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. And I think your idea is great, but how did you come up with it?
So basically, Mariana started telling us about that she really wanted to do some sort of puzzle or something like that, just because it's something that we don't have a lot here. It's not something that we work a lot in GDT. So she wanted to make a puzzle, something like that. So we started to play with some ideas. We had like some sort of maze at first. Then we wanted to like make strings and stuff like that. And then we kind of Mariana also wanted the Japanese art style, which makes complete sense. So we kind of got around to the idea of like making a difference game and checking, and it kind of makes sense. And I was also inspired by this horror game that it's also about checking differences. So I kind of pitched that idea, and then everything came together. So
Yeah. And you have only had 2 days to make this game.
Yes,
So
exactly.
what was your strategy to make this game in only 2 days? 2 days is not a lot of time.
We actually did not struggle as with the time
Yeah.
because the concept that we came up with, it's not very programming land. So
Okay.
that's why we actually had Eduardo, that was originally a programmer, work on the audio instead, pretty much from the
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
So the way we ended up dividing the tasks was just me and Paulina working on the basics of the game, while Gonçalo and Mariana were hard at work and the
Yeah.
actual assets for
Yeah.
us to use.
Okay, and like we mentioned before, we had 3 themes. Everyone had a different theme. So how did you come up with the idea based on the theme? So we already know about Paco, of course,
Yeah.
but what about the other two?
So basically, the piece of fabric was the easiest part because we just decided, me and Mariana, that we were gonna use it in art. So we used the actual cloth in parts of the game, so like doors and fabric and stuff like that in the actual game. So that was the easy part. The other part, the art part, was to use Baku and Sex on the Beach. Because they were completely different and also very culturally different. Because if you had like a Japanese drink, it could be kind of easier. So what me and Mariana kind of decided, it was a little more of a little use of the Sex on the Beach, and we just have one of the nightmares. It's happening in a bar, and one of the things that you can spot is the literal drink. And there's also an Easter egg that if you check, there's Sex on the Beach written in Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how to read Japanese, so but maybe you guys back at home too. Okay, so that's great. And I think you guys did an awesome job with the
Thank
game. You might have caught glimpses of the game on the part 1, but please go check it out because it's so cool. And yeah, so team 2, I'm gonna let Joan say all this stuff. Tell us about the game.
So the game takes place in a swamp, right?
Yeah.
Where the bunny lives, supposedly. And it's basically endless, essentially. And the idea was to create a game that's very hard on the controls, like games like Octodad and very chaotic like that. So every part of the digestive system of the bunny has to be controlled by the player. And it takes a different input to control it. So humans come from one side of the screen to the other, and you have to catch the humans and eat them up to get points.
Yeah, and I think in our case, the controls ended up being the fun part of the game because they are so hard that people struggle while trying to learn them and there's so many humans coming at the same time. So yeah, I think that's the gist of the game. And how did we come up with the idea?
Well, it took a lot of time.
Yeah.
Basically, the first day was basically wasted on just brainstorming the idea. We're having a really tough time incorporating all the teams because we had a lot of ideas, but most of the ideas were or derivative of other games and not very original, or just warranting incorporating all the themes into it. Eventually, it took some time. We came back. Someone mentioned it would be fun to have a chaotic control-like game, and we started working on that.
Yeah, I think that's something you can watch also on part 1 because it's really funny that when I made the vlog on Friday, Team 2 still hadn't had an idea, but Team 1 is already working. And it's really funny because Team 1 ended up having an idea so fast and we were just struggling with finding anything we liked. So yeah. And
also the themes were...
so a recap of the themes. So it was
Yeah.
garlic and games and bunny, but we'll talk about the themes a little after the next question. So what was the strategy to develop the game in 2 days?
Well, everything was we basically just listed down all the tasks we had to do to make the game, and divided it accordingly between all the members. Artists did their list, programmers did their list, and everyone went to work in the next day.
Yeah, I think actually this method worked pretty well. I don't know how if you guys did something similar. I think you also made kind of a list, right?
Yeah.
But I think this method worked great. I'm not used to make lists of things we have to do. We just make it mentally. But we actually took the time to write it on the board, and I think it ended up being so great because we actually planned it out everything. I don't think we forgot maybe anything.
At least the programmers did not miss anything.
Yeah, we planned it very well, and I think it works really well. So now, how did we correlate the idea with the themes?
So the bunny was a bunny, basically. It
Yeah.
was in the game. The garlic was the harvest. It was almost tucked in, just like throw it in there. Basically, the garlic sometimes spawn with the humans, and if the bunny eats it, he pukes and dies.
Yeah, I think we ended up
That's
not...
our lose condition.
Yeah, I think we ended up not knowing exactly what to do with the garlic, and yeah, we struggled with the idea a lot, like we said, and that was our best answer. And yeah, we made a game, so the third theme is covered, I guess. So yeah, well, now on to the experiences of the jam. This is for everyone, regardless of your theme, of your team. What did you learn throughout the jam?
Well, if I can go first. About what I learned about the jam? During the jam?
Yeah, what did you learn during the jam? So personal knowledge that you gained.
I feel that because this jam was a bit different than the one that we usually do, because not only was it in person, but also it was a lot more of a networking event. So I feel that a lot of what I learned was more from talking to people than necessarily from just making the game. Because we talked about a lot of different people. Yeah. From not only from the games industry, but also like animation industry, and even from the game industry, there were artists, programmers, game designers, narrative designers. So there was definitely a lot of things to learn and to get new perspectives on. Yeah. So I think that was what I gained the most from the game.
Okay, that's completely valid. What about you, Gonçalo?
Yeah, I would have to agree. Yeah, the networking part was excellent. Getting to know a lot of people, and I think the best part is that they are people that we admire because they are in positions that we want to work in the future, but they are super down to earth and they are really down to explain everything and to make sure that we are understanding stuff. So that was really great, not only to meet people, but to know that they are people just like us.
Yeah, it's true. João?
Yeah, same. I didn't learn any new skills on Unity or game design or anything else, but networking was the real main focus of the events. Even the talks that were going on during the jam will also focus on the industry. For example, the CV review and the portfolio review talk was very useful to see and learn what recruiters actually look for in a portfolio and a CV.
Yeah. I'm gonna be the odd one out, and I'm gonna talk about the events later, yes. But right now, I'm gonna say that I actually learned something new on this jam. I hate to say it, but unfortunately, I learned about physics on Unity. I hate them. I try to avoid them the best I can because jams are so short. I'm not gonna make something with physics. Unfortunately, in 2 days, we made something with lots of physics. So I learned a lot about Unity physics, and it was awful. But yeah. So, what would you have done differently?
What would I have done differently? Well, we settled on a theme pretty early on. We even joked around that maybe, at least on the programming side, we'd have time to almost make another game.
Yeah.
Of course, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because there's always something that goes wrong, and there's always some bug that you don't see. It takes 3 hours to finish. So I guess that after settling on that theme, we could have tried for longer to what else can we add on it?
Yeah.
Because we only started to try to do that a bit later on, and although we ended up adding some of the stuff, we could have benefited from starting earlier.
Okay. Gonçalo?
So I think what I would do differently is kind of relax on the theme part, because we were really struggling trying to connect all the themes. And I think we had some pretty great ideas. I'm pretty satisfied with the final result. I really like our game. but I think we had some pretty cool ideas that I would have enjoyed more working on. That they didn't cover all the themes, so that was a problem. So that's why we scrapped them off. But yeah, I think I would have just relaxed and be like, yeah, we are covering one theme, but let's keep going.
Yeah. Jean?
Yeah, same as Gonçalo. I basically would try to just not focus on the themes and just make a cool game. It's not that I don't like the game we made, just it's not doesn't have that spark.
Yeah.
And at the end of the jam, we had that show event, show everyone all the games we made, and all the coolest games were games that didn't follow the themes.
Yeah.
I think that says it all.
Of course, I agree, but in my case, I think besides this, of course, what would I have done differently? Probably not make a physics game, first of all, because I think you guys had a better experience because your game was more relaxed, so I would have done that. And of course, avoid the themes because I don't think our themes were that great, but maybe we weren't just creative enough, I don't know. That can also happen. But so worst moments during the jam.
There were none, at least for me. It was a very chill experience. I know we struggled a lot. I guess you could say the brainstorming was the worst moment, but even that was not that bad.
It wasn't bad. Yeah, I agree.
The only bad part was the fact it took so long.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, probably also the same. Because even though we didn't struggle that much during the brainstorming, it's usually one of the best parts. In this case, since the themes were so constrained, it was a bit tougher and. But it wasn't terrible. But if I had to pick, probably one of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, same. I would agree. Yeah.
Okay. What about best moments? Now you have to have had this one, right? What were your best moments?
For me, the best one was because I said even though we started super early, at least on our idea, and we even tried to do a second game. Of course, there was still stuff to do, like right at the end of the jam.
Yeah.
So Gonçalo and the rest of the team were literally packing up to set up the computer with our game in the showcase area.
Yeah.
And me and Paulina stayed behind because we still had like one or two game breaking bugs that we were still trying to fix. Yeah. And it was super exciting, and we did end up doing it in time, so it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
I think for me, it's two parts. It's getting to meet people in the industry. I think that for me is always great. And the other one, not to be too sappy, but it was to spend a lot of time with these guys. Just because working in person is really different, and you get like really special memories. And in something like this where we get to travel to another country is really special. And the moments that we spend in the hotel, in the actual university, listening to music, making jokes, stuff like that, they're always great. And those are always memories that I'm going to keep forever. So
Yeah, and I'm gonna say my part because I just agree with Gonçalo. I don't have anything to have. That was also my best moment. But João?
Yeah, nothing new.
Nothing new. Okay. So well, now you've already touched some of these topics, but I'm still gonna ask you about this because I think maybe we could go a little bit in detail. That is the jam organization. Because you guys probably want to know how the jam went and how it was organized and what we did there and stuff like that. So I'm going to start with the controversial topic, which is the theme choosing. So I'm going to explain a little bit how the theme choosing went this year. They did something really fun where everyone had to scatter around the room where we were, and they would give us two categories, and each person had to choose one of the categories and make like a gesture to symbolize the category, and find people who also chose that category. And that was kind of the theme formation for everyone. So the people who have in teams ended up having teams like that. You had to pick the categories you chose during this game and kind of go into the organization team, and they would give you your themes. So it's kind of confusing, maybe I don't know if you're following, but from these categories they would give you a random small subcategory.
Yeah.
And that was your theme of this year. So I think I'm gonna say, maybe we can start with team one probably is better, but what did you think about the theme choosing?
Yeah. So it's like you said, because we had some themes that we had picked out during that phase of hanging out with people. We had between the five of us, we had like it was like 12 different teams.
Yeah.
And then from those, we ended up with narrowing it down to the final three, which was mythological creatures, drinks and beverages, and fabrics.
Yeah.
So then we picked those and went to the organization they gave us for mythological creatures. They gave us Baku. For the drinks, they gave us Sex on the Beach, and for the fabric, they gave us literally the piece of fabric. Like we sort of all of us touched on it before. The themes were interesting because at least personally, I like the fact that not every team got the same theme. So because that means there was a lot of diversity in the games. But the themes themselves, because they were specific things, they were very constructive. And that's maybe why most of the teams that had more success ended up being the ones that
didn't
follow, sort of ignored it.
I think the actual theme forming, I think that was a lot of fun. It's a really fun activity because you get to meet a lot of different people and discuss stuff. That was really fun. What I think should have been done is that we stayed on the actual categories and not subcategories. Just because the subcategories give us a lot of constraints. Just to give an example, we have mythical creature and then Baku. With mythical creature, we can do a lot of stuff. And then we have a specific mythical creature. We are like really stuck on something.
Yeah, I agree completely. Jean?
Yes, and the minigame was super fun. It was a great opportunity to meet all the people participating in the jam and break that barrier of shyness and talk to many different people in many different roles. The actual themes, well, like everyone said, were too constraining.
I think one thing that happened a lot, like Gonçalo mentioned, was the themes were very specific to subcategories, and what happened, at least in Team 2 case, was we ended up with garlic and bunny, and that's those are two themes that are so constrictive. I don't think you have lots of stuff to do with that, and it kind of ends up being hard trying to be creative when you have such a specific theme to work on. I think if you wanted to be specific, at least one theme would be enough. Or you should have used maybe the categories itself and not the subcategories. So now on to the part that you liked and the part that you probably guys want to hear about, which is the people and events. So of course Nordic had lots of events that people who went to the Nordic could experience. So we had talks and we had people reviewing portfolios like João mentioned, and we had lots of tables with people from various companies who were there to present their tools and talk a little about what they do in the company. Lots of stuff that we could do. So what did you think about people and events?
Sure. Okay. So I think I already said, but it was great. Like not only people in the industry, but also people just like us that are like trying to get into and starting to develop games. That was a lot of fun. And so people were really friendly, and also we got to have a lot of contact with people like Instagrams and Discord and stuff like that. So it's people that we can still keep in touch with. So people were great.
It was really fun to see that there were also industry veterans participating in the actual area. It was also interesting to talk to them and figure out what games they did, and you'll be like, oh, you made that game? I love that game.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, and even the events that happened, for example, the team farming event, or even on the first day, because there were some stations that we weren't able to attend, right? Because we arrived too late for them. But also there was sort of welcoming party that was a lot of fun to hang out on a more casual environment. Even though the jam as a whole is very casual, it was a good starting opportunity to know the vibes of the
and
the environment.
I think the people there were so nice and they clearly wanted to talk. That's kind of the main events of the jam. I would say it's networking. In our case, when we were struggling with the game design, we ended up taking like a 5 minutes break. We ended up starting to hanging out with someone who we ended up discovering was kind of a big shot in the game industry. And we set up a 5-minute break. We ended up being talking with him for like 3 hours maybe. And I would say that maybe that was also one of the best moments for me, was talking with the people there. Because like I think it was Gonzalo mentioned that there are people like us, and maybe it's kind of hard sometimes for young developers and indie developers to understand that people who work on big shot companies are also people like us. So yeah, I think the people and events were top notch on the Nordic Jam. Now, one interesting thing is the foods. So we actually had free food.
Yeah.
So we got free lunches and free dinners and stuff like that. So I think it's worth mentioning maybe the food that we got there. The food is actually was all vegan and vegetarian, so everyone could eat them. So what did you think of the food?
I mean, personally, I liked it. I don't have a lot of complaints, but I also sometimes due to work I ended up missing a couple of meals.
Yeah.
But personally, I didn't have any complaints, and I think it was a good way of including people with some digestive problems or like intolerances that they could have, and still feed everyone with a good quality.
Yeah. I think if you guys ever want to go to Nordic, you're not gonna be hungry. There's food for everyone, and not only lunches and dinners, they also have like some snacks and stuff like that. So it's great. And I think one of the best moments in terms like of food was that on the first day we kind of got there later, so there was no lunch technically because lunch was already over. But they quickly got us lunch because there was still some stuff from lunch, so they quickly arranged that when we had lunch. So organization was great.
Yeah.
Well, I do not agree with those two. I didn't like the food. I still ate it, but it seemed like, I know it was vegetarian recipes and vegan recipes, but it just felt like it was a bunch of vegetables in a pot and they served it like that. Could have been more creative with the recipes. And also, one thing that's very good about visiting other countries is experiencing their food culture. And I don't think we got that in Denmark.
Yeah, I think
it would have been interesting to see what recipes.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think one of the things we actually didn't end up experiencing was the Denmark culture foods. Maybe that would have been better. So yeah, I agree.
Also, I'm not sure if that's possible with vegetarian.
Yeah.
Would be interesting to experience.
So my next question for you was about the location. Like we mentioned, the jam happened on Denmark, and we're from Portugal, so we had to fly there. What did you guys think of the location of the jam?
I think the location is great. We were in a university. The university was great in terms of conditions. Even I think the thing we struggle with the most is power outlets, and there were enough to go around. So it was great. It's a big university. We had space, and it's a pretty modern university. So,
I think the university itself was pretty fancy. I mean, it's a beautiful university, and also they had like a river going through the building.
Yeah.
Which was a really nice view as well. The city itself was also, we didn't have a lot of time to see stuff or buy souvenirs or anything like that. So
unfortunately,
we couldn't really enjoy that, but from what we saw, it was still pretty nice, and overall, I really enjoyed the location.
Yeah.
Coming from Portugal, I was expecting it to be a lot colder, and I was surprised that it was not that cold.
It was also spring when we went.
Which is also funny because at the same time we were there was a massive heat wave in Portugal.
Yeah. I think maybe one thing worth noting is from people coming from the outside, we had some struggle with money and stuff like that because credit cards didn't work quite at the same in Portugal as in the Nordic Jam. So if you tend on planning to go there, please pay attention to that because maybe it can
also
be a little bit
different.
Currency was different. Stuff like that, money. It was kind of something we had to take care with.
Yeah.
So now my two final questions for you are: do you have any advice to the viewers?
I mean, what you guys were just talking about, about the currency and weather. That's normal travel stuff, but it's still stuff that you have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Because you're going to a place that is 3 hours away. But other than that, about the event itself, if you decide to go, just enjoy it. You use that time to talk to people and to learn a lot because they have a lot to teach you. And just interacting with them, because you're not going to ask them like, oh, teach me this or teach me that.
Yeah.
Just keep your mind open to new perspectives and to anything that you may learn in the experience.
Great advice. Gonçalo?
I completely agree. Don't be shy. Feel free to go talk to everybody. Everyone that is really passionate about games. So like, don't be shy. Go to other teams. Ask to try their games out. I think that's the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically the same thing. I'll just like to add that sometimes it's just worth it to ignore the themes and make a cool game. And not focus too much on it.
If it's not mandatory.
Just make a game you're passionate about.
Yeah, don't stress out.
And when I guess Maria's going to say Unity Physics is awful.
No, actually not. Yeah, that's also good advice. Thank you for reminding me. Don't use Unity Physics, but that wasn't actually going to be my advice. My advice was actually almost the opposite of João. That was, it's okay if you don't make a great game. Just go enjoy yourself on networking. It was super fun. So
that's also cool. I just saying. It's more enjoyable for you, maybe. To sometimes ignore the films.
Yeah, exactly. And last question of all: do you want to go to Nordic Jam again?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it's unanimous. I think we can end it on this note. So yeah, thank you guys for watching our long vlog and for accompanying us through all these adventures and stuff like that. So please, as always, go watch our other vlogs, go watch our streams, go watch everything you can because we have such nice content. And keep updated on our social network and keep developing. So yeah, bye.
Bye.